it's just increasing overtime expenses. And again, for snow considerations, you do have, crew exhaustion you really have to factor in. It should not be understated. Then there's the impact of personal leave time. We have a 15-week construction period. Basically, it's Memorial Day to Labor Day. Blocks of vacation during the winter are not really allowed. The occasional days here and there are fine, depending on the forecast, but somebody can't plan and take 2 weeks off. Vacation time, comp time, personal time, there are roughly 56 weeks of personal leave that have to be taken between 30 weeks. So people are out. And if the crew size is down, that's when we're staggered. I mean, it's rare we have a full crew during the summer, during that construction period. Again, I need a sufficient crew in order to get the work done. It's not about, just the numbers. It's about the service to our taxpayer. I've said this, and I think you've heard me ad infinitum. Please excuse the repetition, but I really think it's an important statement, and it's an important statement for the record. I absolutely respect the job that this board has to watch the expenses, to keep money from being spent inappropriately, to keep costs down, to make sure the fund balance grows. I respect that, and I admire you for facing the challenge. But it's not just about the money, it's also, that's one half of your job. The other half of your job is to supply services with the money that's collected from the taxpayers in good faith for services. The Town Highway Department is really our only real infrastructure department that we have. We have been cut over the years significantly. And I just think that more cuts here and losing staff people to do the jobs is just a disservice to the taxpayers of this town. So I wanted to bring those items to your attention. I don't think that we've crossed over into anything that is executive session. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this to you, and again, here we are. So where are we?
Do you have, I'm sorry I got a couple of stupid questions. Mm-hmm. Do you have the snowfall by each call out or each event, the amount?
I could probably put something together that's close. It may not be dead on accurate, but we could probably put something together that's
But you don't keep it?
I'd have to go back in the records. We try to note.
Okay, you have it in your record.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and try and note how
do that,
much.
I'd appreciate that, because my understanding of, you said 6 to 8 inches is typical snowfall.
Yeah.
And I find the majority.
Not last year.
Pardon me?
Not last year.
Not this year, yeah.
I find the majority that, there's a lot of 1 inchers and 3 inchers and things like that. The majority are smaller, and I've been tracking it. And so I'm concerned about that a little bit.
Just in response to that, when it's 2 inches of snow, if it's ice, if it's treacherous, our mandate is the safety of the people in the town.
I understand.
We still go out, whether it's 2 inches, whether it's 8 inches. My point in quoting a heavier accumulation snow is that the heavier the snow and the more the snow, the longer it takes to plow that route, the more snow you're pushing, the weight of the snow, the more sand and salt you might be forced to use, increasing your trips back in for reloads as well. That's why I'm using a higher accumulation, but the majority of snows are smaller, 4 inches or below perhaps, but we do get those significant snowfalls. A 6 or 8 inch storm is absolutely normal for us.
The other question I had basically was, when you have this, are you proposing to, or would you be proposing to move money from snow removal to another personnel line?
There would need to be some movement between the personnel lines within the part-town section of the budget.
So you are saying,
depending on how the usage is.
Move it to another person.
Well, I don't know that yet, because I don't know if it's going to snow. This happens every year. I mean, we do this.
Are you talking about for not having layoffs this year, Bruce, or in the future for funding?
All I want to know is if there's surplus this year for some reason, and they sound like very valid reasons. I want to know what that means. And
even without that being the case this year, quite often as we approach the end of budget years, transfers between personnel lines are standard. They happen like every year. Because if you had good weather and you're not spending it in snow, you're spending it more in general. So therefore, we do a transfer. This has happened every year since I've been here, and it's happened every year before I've been here. And you could confirm that with the town bookkeeper. It's completely normal operating procedure to transfer between personnel lines within that portion of the budget.
Okay,
It has been.
but that's our call.
It's your call, but it's happened every year. So if it wasn't done this year for some reason to achieve something else, that would be the anomaly. That would be.
Let me ask a question that might be a little controversial. Do you need our approval to transfer the money?
To transfer money between lines, yes.
Could you choose to go over budget within a line area if your total budget was not going over budget? Could you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Understand what I'm
That's a
asking?
legal question, so I'm not comfortable answering that.
My understanding is the controller allows Kathy to spend whatever she wants in a budget line item. What she cannot do is move it from one to the other.
So we need to approve the moving of the
Right,
money
right.
from snow removal line to the part-town
Like from snow to
personnel line.
to the, mechanic line, if,
On the
or
rest-
whatever.
For the rest of the year, we would need to do that action.
The town needs to approve budget transfers, yes.
So, okay, I won't argue with you anymore, so I'll stop.
Let me say this,
We're just getting started.
Let me ask,
Kathy, that, and this should not be taken as to how I would vote on specific layoffs of specific individuals. So don't try to read what I would do in executive session when we talk about specific individuals. But since I've been on this council, we've had to balance the town budget by dipping into fund reserves. Town council has followed this practice of dipping into fund balances to balance the budget since before I was elected to the council. Our two main funds have been depleted by 50%. The general fund has decreased from $1,080,000 at the end of 2007 to $540,000 at the end of 2011. And the highway part-town fund has decreased from $449,000 at the end of 2009 to $222,000 at the end of 2011. At the end of this year, these fund balances will be even lower. Even with the use of these fund balances, which in effect are reserves, the town has not given raises to non-union staff members, although raises were given to union employees by virtue of a contract negotiated in 2009 and running through the end of this year. The town has not bought significant capital equipment in the highway department, although you've told us that much of the equipment should be replaced. There are not sufficient funds to replace equipment. In addition, in the last several years, in order to keep our budgets in control and not adding to the tax burden of residents because of the adverse economic climate in which we live, we have not repaved as many town roads as you've recommended. Members of the council have been very active in cutting costs. Over the past several years, we have substantially reduced our outside legal bill. Gina and Elizabeth have been active in obtaining competing bids and have saved money from outside accounting services, monitoring gas wastes from solid waste and at the Old Town dump, and the costs of workmen's compensation insurance. Bruce continues to do mowing and trail maintenance. I believe we can only break this cycle of relying on dwindling reserves by cutting costs and raising taxes. However, the town is limited to raising taxes to 2% a year by the state property cap. Although we can override that limit, I have not heard a groundswell of public support for substantial tax increases. The town budget for 2012, in effect, calls for one layoff in highway and one layoff in maintenance on September 1. The budget was adopted over 10 months ago. During that budget process, we discussed with members of the Highway Department certain givebacks, some of which were offered to cut costs. I would have accepted those proposals in order to avoid layoffs this September. Gina and I dissented from the 2012 budget, so that's very important, I believe. We believe that we would be negotiating with the union a new contract during 2012, and the cost reductions would be part of that union negotiation. Therefore, I thought that the town could wait until 2013 to implement more cost reductions with respect to union personnel. Principal cost reduction would be medical care. The town pays the entire health benefit cost for employees and their families, except in the case of several new hires who contribute 10% of the cost of providing such medical coverage. Thus, Rhinebeck taxpayers pay for free medical coverage for town employees and their families. Also, under the current union contract, that benefit is for life. Current taxpayers, their children, and grandchildren will have to pay this medical coverage bill for union employees for 20 or 30 years after retirement. As we all know, the cost of medical coverage increases every year, even though private employers who provide medical coverage plans now require employees to pay a percentage. My true expectation had been that we could reach an accommodation with the union on this issue and other issues. Both at the New York State level and around the country, governments and unionized workers have achieved accommodations to cut costs. In order to accomplish this goal, the town council diligently spent hours in executive session with its labor consultant to draft a proposed contract. I had every expectation that the issue of layoffs would be resolved in the context of that negotiation. However, the union has dashed my hope to avoid layoffs by not starting to negotiate. And I want to make clear that don't take that as my view as to what we should do in light of what Kathy said. But I do want to say I am terribly disappointed. On May 22nd, we told the union representative that we wanted to give them this draft contract and wanted to start negotiation in the hope of concluding the negotiations before the start of the budget process in August. The union representative wrote back saying she really didn't want our proposal until negotiations started, and I won't bore you with the quote, but in fact she says, no givebacks. Our theory is we wait 3 years for negotiation to tell you what we need, not for you to tell us what to give back. On June 3rd, we again wrote asking for 4 or 5 dates during June and July when she would be available for negotiations. The response was would not be available in June and July, but would give us some dates in August and September. In the beginning of July, our labor consultant again wrote to union representatives that we were very concerned about not beginning negotiations until late August or September because the 2013 budget process begins in August, and it's essential to have a good understanding of the cost of wages and benefits by the town starts the budget process. This letter pointed out that there were 2 layoffs within the bargaining unit scheduled for September 1, and that a potential reduction in wages and benefits may be helpful in determining whether those layoffs should be revised. The union representative said we don't negotiate with a barrel to our head. So let me say that I am terribly disappointed, having voted against the layoffs a year ago, that we have not started negotiations.
If I could just speak to 4 things in your statement.
Do you want, I mean, it seems like if you want to.
Yeah, no, I just, yeah, because there was, in the earlier part, there was some, in your statement, you said that the layoffs were called for September 1st, but again, saying, no, what we had said that we would see where we are September 1st, hence this whole conversation. So I wanted to correct that factual misstatement. The second thing is that you said health insurance, that there are only a few new hires paying 10% toward their health insurance, but the town, I believe actually you drafted it, or, has a policy where people are now paying non-union 25% toward their health insurance benefits. I am paying 25% toward my health
Kathy,
insurance
that hasn't
benefits.
started, and what it is beginning September
Started.
1st.
For town hall employees,
Yeah.
I think we're at 12,
No, it's
Supposed to
12.5?
begin
Starts at
September 1st,
Still at
12.5%.
One, it's 12.5% until April, and then it goes to 25.
right?
Okay. And in terms of anything that you raised regarding the union, I'm not comfortable speaking to that. I am the person who, at the highway department, is supposed to enforce the contract. The contract is not negotiated with or by me. It is negotiated between the town and the union. I think that there are union people here that can speak to some of the issues that you raise. I would certainly like to give that opportunity, since it was a direct statement.
No, I appreciate that. Let me just
Yeah, but I just
respond
wanted
one
to
by-
say again,
Look, we-
in raising the union issues, that's not something that I can really speak to, because either way, I'm really trapped in the middle with that.
I understand that, and I don't expect you to respond to that, but as
think somebody
someone,
else might want to,
as
though.
someone who voted to avoid layoffs in the expectation that we would be negotiating at this point,
Well,
I
quite
expressed
frankly,
my
I had that
terrible
expectation as well, but it's not where we are.
disappointment.
I want to say that those comments that the councilman made were his statements. They weren't, I'd never seen them before, had no participation in them. They're his statements that he's making. I do have some questions
Okay.
beyond this for you, but if you want to keep on with the union issue.
Right,
go ahead.
you had a fourth point, or we want to?
Okay. Bob Roush, I'm the shop steward, local 445, for representing town of Rhinebeck. Normally, I've been a part of the union for now 15 years. Typically, most contracts don't start till 120 days before your contract ends. So I think that, that part of it, that's typically what happens.
Contract negotiations, you mean?
Usually start, 120 days before the contract ends. That's a typical setup. And typically, too, as the union, we try not to have the layoffs part of a negotiation deal. We work very hard. We work very hard for you guys. We work very hard for the town of Rhinebeck. So, and it's, maybe that wording may have been a little bit strong, but we work very hard to get what we think we need. We're not asking for over and beyond what's considerable, We're not asking for the moon. We just ask for the basics, to keep rolling. And all offers, whatever comes back and forth, isn't just shut down. So that's, that's really it. I mean, that's the whole deal in a nutshell as far as the 120 days. I mean, it's not to mean anything else. That's typically a way a contract usually runs. So,
I don't want you to respond to this because your counsel's not here, because this is a public record and can be used whatever future holds us all, but just to keep you aware of that, just be concerned about what you're saying, because it can come back in whatever happens in the future, okay?
Yep.
I understand, if you want to defer those comments to your attorney or whatever, it's great. It's up to you. Just what I want to say. I just want you to be aware of that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Bob.
thanks.
Tom, you've been patient. Do you have some questions?
Yeah, it goes back to the highway stuff. We cover two roads in the county roads that you plow them. We don't do repairs on them and so on.
Correct.
I understand from the county executive that they're trying to, they're not going to decentralize, but they're trying to reduce public works size, and they're going to look for contracts. And the county executive told me he's going to look for public and private, which gives us an opportunity to grab onto something like that. I don't know if there's any growth for us
I
there.
actually reached out to the county, asking if there were, additional contracts that we could enter into. I reached out to Bob Balkand, exactly on this matter,
Okay.
to say, are there additional roads? Because, for example, Violet Hill Road, we go over it. At least 3 trucks go over that route. It doesn't make sense that they are plowing that because it entirely is contained, start to finish, within a route that we go over, and they have to go out of their way because it connects to 2 state roads. It's the county's decision, it's the county's road. I feel that would be a very logical road for us to be taken care of, and then extend our contract out where we are actually reimbursed in kind for the materials, and we are reimbursed in money for the labor and the machinery use. And as I said, they'll pay for the time that we're driving over it anyway. So, I mean, I did reach out on that. I was told no, not for this year. Perhaps I did. I reached out trying to get it in and was told not for this coming year, that that's not where they're at. Maybe they're revisiting that. There have been substantial changes at the Department of Public Works in terms of the hierarchy. I mean, I'm sure that came down from above. There have been real changes there. I would very much like that to change. I think we could work with them and maybe even take on another road or two.
Yeah, I think it's a county executive's proposal at this point. It's not even in the legislature's hand, but it's
Well,
something
I would
that he's-
support that, but the department itself that I reached out to said they were not looking at that. Now that there's a new county executive in place, perhaps the directive has come down to explore those opportunities. I am more than open. I encourage those
Well,
opportunities.
Are there any other roads besides Violet Hill that are?
We could
county-
probably do a portion of County Road 52, I would say, because we have to go over that to get to something as well. I'm sorry, Salisbury. Right. Right. So, I mean, certainly that's another one that I think is logical. Other roads for the county, I can't think of. Well, we could do probably a portion of Slate Quarry. We could do, yeah, that would be a portion of Slate Quarry we could look at. That's not as much of a no-brainer because they're already going to be on Bull's Head coming down, so it sort of makes sense for the county to continue their route down to the bottom at 9G, turn around and go back. So if I were in their case, that's not one that I would think is in their best financial interest. But certainly Salisbury would be. We go over that to get to Enterprise, to get where we're going, to get up to Snake Hill.
But Tom, your point was more than snow, right? It wasn't just the hit and miss possibilities, it was maintaining it.
I think if.
We're open to anything.
I think I mean, they're talking about this now. This is going to be thrown out there, and they want to show where costs can be saved. And if you look at Ulster County, they decentralized.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at decentralizing. They're looking away at doing away with any highway stuff and contracting with towns to fulfill their needs. There's no plows up theory or whatever. If we could show work,
Well,
throughout the year,
Well, what
mean-
Ulster County did was largely based on what was already happening in Dutchess County that we've all been on the forefront of, with the snow stuff. In terms of the other maintenance, there are roads, probably the same roads, because again, it doesn't make sense to go out of our way to get somewhere or to continue a portion that they have anyway. But those roads that I mentioned, the two that we're doing and the two additional, we'd be open to looking at doing some of the maintenance on that. It sometimes gets frustrating for me having to deal with the public and explain why we can't do something.
Right.
Morton Road is another one where we do winter maintenance, but we don't do summer maintenance. That's certainly something that we could look at. I mean, I'm, as I said, very open to that kind of sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just encourage that,
Yeah.
just promote that to them so that they get it in their idea that we want to do that.
Yeah, as I said, I did that outreach and made that clear, so I'm hoping, and I'll do it again and again and again if you want. That's no
I'll do it
problem.
also.
I'm there.
That was it for me,
Okay,
basically.
thank you. Anything else?
Just what do we make on those two roads for plowing, if you don't mind me asking? What is the revenue on that?
Now
also?
you're testing my memory because I'm so in summer mode. I'd have to go and look at the
Okay,
figures.
all right, okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true too, because again, there are materials.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hello, Bobby Wyant, foreman, town of Rhinebeck. Just want you guys to keep in mind that the staffing levels that we have now are really what we need. They've been that way for 16 years since I've been there. Okay, we're getting more traffic. We need flaggers when we're out working on the road. Years ago, we didn't need a flagger, but I mean, Joe, we work on your road. I don't know where 30 cars come from. It's a dead-end road. And then there's the liability, too. If you don't have the signs out, you don't have the flagmen. I mean, I'm a taxpayer, too. I think about the town. I don't want anybody suing the town because it didn't have a flag sign out or didn't have, flaggers working there. Then you talk about the county. The county's trying to cut back on personnel. And, Tom, you sound like you're trying to say we're going to cut back on personnel on you and give you more work.
Well, I wanted,
Okay, it's possible with the staffing that we have. We did ask them about doing Violet Hill last year, but if we cut our staffing, it probably wouldn't work. Okay, my most important thing during the winter time, I treat every road as if my wife's going to be driving on it. Okay, we try to have the roads treated, plowed, and stuff by 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and we try to have them in good shape by 11 o'clock at night. My guys don't milk the overtime. Nobody wants to stay there all night long if we don't need to, but my guys will come in at 3:30, 4 o'clock, whatever time I tell them to. That's the time that we need to get the roads in shape by 7 o'clock in the morning. If you cut the staffing, it's going to add, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours to everybody's route. Things are going to have to be changed around, coordinated around. And during the summer, we just did the bridge. I'd like to thank the crew. They did a good job on the Parsons Street Bridge. I believe we had a $55,000 budget for the bridge. We came in almost $10,000 under budget and right on time. So I'd like to thank the crew. They did a good job. There was a lot of work involved in that. 1,500 sandbags at 50, 60 pounds apiece. A couple guys were in the streams with hip boots moving these bags and placing them in there. We cut the staffing. These kind of projects we may not be able to do. So you may have to contract them out. You contract out a project like that, you're probably talking $125,000. We did it for $35,000. So I'd like you just to keep all that in mind. During the summer, I do need everybody that we have, because Kathy said guys do take their vacation time. I know I go on vacation, and my crew is limited then, and I need everybody I can get. Okay? Thank you.
let me just clarify what I'm trying to do is to bring the revenue in to keep the jobs. I want to build the revenue up, not give you more work with less people. Okay, that's my point. And I think Kathy gets
I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I mean, like I said, we talked about Violet Hill because it's right in our route, and said give them a call and see if they want us to do it. We'll do it. So.
All right.
So I would make a motion at the end that we go into executive session and discuss specific individuals.
Any further on discussion on this? Okay. All right. Next item is a letter to the state comptroller seeking indemnity. Who's that from?
I've circulated a letter in connection with the lawsuits that we have, that we've spent a certain sum of money. Bob, if you can stay, let me talk to you for a couple of minutes after. Yeah. That we've spent, I think, about $150,000 on one suit. The other suit, we spent about $60,000. There's a state statute that says we're supposed to get indemnity. So far, we've been unsuccessful at the Attorney General level and at the Greenway Council is supposed to have an insurance policy, but
You mean the state hasn't just sent us a check?
no, they haven't. We have filed a notice of intention to file suit just to preserve our rights. So this would be one last step before we as a board decide whether we want to sue the state or forget about it. So I don't think there's any cost involved in sending the letter, and I think we should do it, and then we'll have to decide in the next couple of months where we want to go with this. So is there any problem with us sending the letter? It would be signed by Tom and I.
Who's going to make the letter up?
Pardon me?
Who's going to draft the letter? You drafted a letter up?
Yeah, I drafted the letter, and copies would go to,
Absolutely have to ask them for the money.
copies would go to our two representatives, Senator Salant and Assemblyman Cahill.
Are they helping us with this, or have you?
Yes, I've asked them both who we should write to in the controller's office, and the response has been, well, there is nobody who is in charge, so we would send the letter to the controller himself and to the regional office.
Well, we went to see Senator Saland, and he's been pretty helpful with us to the extent that he could be. So I don't know.
Right, both have been very helpful. Cahill introduced the legislation to extend the indemnity provision. Senator Salant led the Senate. Cahill led the Assembly, and fortunately it was extended to 2017, the indemnity provision.
All right.
Do we need to make a motion?
Can I see that letter first?
Yeah, I circulated to everybody. I'll put another copy in your box.
All right, so we'll follow up on it? or-
Yep.
Okay. Town hall hours.
Let me raise this, and there's two things. One is that one of Barbara's suggestions when she left, I spoke to her, is that we could accomplish more in the town clerk's office if they closed to the public for an hour in their normal workday. That it's very hard with a lot of interruptions to concentrate. And I think that is an excellent idea, and I think it's especially needed now since Joan is trying to hold down two posts, but I think we should make it permanent. So I would suggest that we have now the hours for the town clerk to be 9 to 3. And the other
Are you done with that, or no?
Did you say permanent?
well, I think we should make it permanent, but at least we should make it till we have a town clerk. But I think we're going to have the same problem when we get a permanent town clerk, that they really do need an hour where they can concentrate on specific things uninterrupted.
And Barb was able to do that because she came in so early. She came in at 7:30, or 7. And so she had an interrupted time before people started arriving.
So maybe we should take it one at a time. So I would move that we change the hours that the town clerk is open to the public to 9 to 3.
You want to wait for Bruce for this?
Yeah, that's fine. Let me raise the other thing that was told to me. Some people use the town hall on Saturdays and Sundays, and at least Barbara followed the practice of coming in on Saturday and Sunday to open the town hall. It's been suggested to me that we could give a key out. The keys say do not duplicate. We could establish the practice of giving a key to the town hall so the person who is using it on a Saturday or Sunday could open the town hall themselves and be responsible for returning the key on Monday or Tuesday to the town clerk
That makes
to
me a
see
little
how
nervous.
that would work to avoid the necessity of having Joan or the new town clerk coming in on a Saturday or Sunday just to open the door.
Yeah, I don't know.
Has it been an issue?
Well, it's an issue in the sense that, yeah, they have been doing it. I think it's an extra burden to put on somebody, and it's a burden that doesn't make any sense because the person who uses the town hall is responsible for closing up. So if there's a problem, if we don't trust them with the key, who knows if they'll close the door. So we're trusting them enough to turn the lights off and close the door. I don't see it's a big deal to give them a key to open the door as long as we monitor the keys, get them back, and the keys say on there, do not duplicate, and I assume that would be honored.
And the farmer's market people, they have their own key, right?
No, they don't.
They don't.
No, they
They
would be
don't.
one of the ones who would,
Barbara came in at 8 in the morning and opened the door for them.
yeah.
So, Bruce, maybe you can come back. What we're saying is that,
We'll let Bruce come down and open the doors up on the weekends and give him an extra stipend for that.
that I would like to cut back the hours that the town clerk is open to the public to 9 to 3. That,
Town hall's currently open from 8:30 until 4.
right,
So we'd like to have it open later?
yep. Because
Have
the,
you spoken to?
No, he's saying 9 to 3. He's saying open only 9 to 3 to the public.
to the public,
To the public
the
and-
workday would be 9 to 4.
Well, the workday's 8:30.
Pardon me?
Workday starts at 8:30.
Well, it started at 8:30, I guess, for Barbara. Joan, you don't come in at 8:30, do you? Don't you come in at 9?
My hours are 9 to 4, but the office hours are 8:30 to 4.
Right, but that's because we had 2 people. And even,
Just to, sorry to interrupt, have you had input on this?
We used to be open less hours. What were they, 9 to 4, 9 to 3? I forget, but
9 to 3:30.
several years ago, I asked the 2 clerks to alternate coming in or kind of overlap coming in. So
Right.
we open from 8:30 to 4 now rather than,
right. And I've spoken to Barbara and Joan. They both are supportive of this idea that they do think,
well, my
They-
point, I mean, this is
You need
public
to
office,
have
yeah,
access
it's my,
before work or something?
pardon me?
and after.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the dialogue.
I've had a couple of interactions with citizens or needing access, and they need to come before or after work. So I just wanted to say that. I think we, could accommodate something in the interim and then look at a permanent change after we've hired a new town clerk.
Look, we can do it that way and revisit once we hire, but I would urge, at that point, we still stay to 9 to 3. But if we want to just do it in the interim, that's fine. I think danger is you confuse the public, because we got to inform the public, we got to put it on a website, and if you start changing and then a month later, I think we're going to engender confusion. We can always revisit and go to longer opening, but I think it will increase efficiency without really hurting the public.
A lot of towns have one morning during the week where they open up early, and one day where they stay open later. And so
That's a good idea.
those days are, collapsed on the other end. They're truncated on the other end. And that allows people to get in those situations.
Well, again, we'd have to talk to the new town clerk. We'd have to talk to our deputy town clerk as to how they feel about it. So at least I would do this on a temporary basis. Let's have this discussion again after we hire. But I would like to inform the public. And
Who can be here at 8:30? Who's here at 8:30 anyways? Somebody comes in.
Should we be here at 8:30? I think we need to be here on one end or the other for the public currently. Even if we use only one day a week, the office people are pretty concentrated on addressing, especially at night, because we know and being in the office by myself. However, I don't think that it's good service to the public to close on Fridays and 3 o'clock and opening Fridays and 3.
Is there any interim help we can get?
All right, let's follow up on this then, right? But you need help now, right? You can't do all this yourself, so what's ideal? Is there somebody in the assessor's office that can help, or what's going on? I mean, would that be?
If the board approves me to pull somebody from another office when they have applications for help, that's wonderful. They've all offered.
I think we need to cover this.
Right.
And I think we do need somebody for some hours every week to help you. It's asking a lot. And thank you
It's only one day.
I know.
but But that's not going to solve the principal thing that I'm raising, that I think our town clerks need some uninterrupted time to...
I think we all agree, but the other end of that is, coming up with a plan so that the public's served, so that there's an early morning open and a late afternoon open. So a lot of people work, and they can't get out of work to come down and get a birth certificate or, whatever they need. So I agree. I don't think we have a concrete plan at this point, do we?
I think we just.
Well, the concrete plan is temporarily change the hours to 9 to 3 and give Joan an hour of
Joan just said she doesn't think that'll work.
I couldn't hear what she said, but if she said that,
Sorry, Joe, what I said is I don't think that closing the office 5 days is going to sufficiently serve the public. I don't think that opening the office 5 days a week at 9 o'clock will sufficiently serve the public. I am not opposed to one day keeping the office open later. Perhaps a compromise of, Tuesdays or Wednesdays, staying later.
Forgetting about the hours that the office is open to the public, do you want 1 hour of uninterrupted work time?
1 hour of uninterrupted
A
work
day.
time with the door closed per day would be fantastic.
Okay.
However, ultimately, my job is to serve the public, and I can't do that if my door is closed. So what you decide to do with it, that's your job.
My feeling is that people would come before work more than they would come after work.
Well, it's a feeling, so I don't know.
It's both. Some people leave work a little early, some people go in a little late.
So it's nowhere, and so I make a motion, we go into executive.
Well, wait a minute, let me, we're going to have to authorize to pay people to cover the second person who would be either before or end the shift, right? You want somebody to help out?
Have you figured out any hours, what's it, how much time we should get, and do you have it, we'd like to give you some more help. What would help you?
Just the idea to be...
Thank you, that's wonderful, and I don't know. I don't really know the answer.
Make an authorization and then revisit it
Well,
on.
why don't we wait and kind of see how it turns out, that what she does need?
2 weeks of each double hockey sticks.
We have enough money because Barb's, in Barb's line anyway. so
Right.
If you find people, why don't we authorize it that way? If you find people that can help,
Excellent.
Well, but, again, this proposal was not to increase costs.
We have,
It's not-
we still
it's not
have money
increasing.
budgeted in.
At the fact that you have it, it just goes into the fund balance. And the problem is we keep using up our fund balance. So if you have money temporarily, that doesn't mean you have to use it.
Unless you want solar panels.
Oh.
Well, I think we did presume that in the interim, before we have a new clerk hired, that Joan would need help
Right.
and support. I think we all presumed that.
Right.
So I think that that's what we're accommodating.
Maybe you can close the assessor's office an hour earlier and use Donna. That's what I think we should be thinking about.
Okay, let's not use names.
Okay, but
Joel?
hold on one
yes,
second.
yes.
I requested to have on the agenda the thing about going out to request for bids.
Before we go to that, are we doing anything? Are we
Yes.
authorizing any time?
Well, I'll support what you need to pick up the slack to what you're missing, okay? I don't know how we do this.
Do we need a motion or?
Maybe Joan can talk with Donna. Maybe we can comfortably
don't think we
close
need a
that
motion.
office
Sign off on it.
for your extra half hour.
Speak to her.
All right, go ahead, Gina.
I had requested on the agenda about going out for proposals for all of our contracts, and specifically for the town attorney, and it was taken off, so I just wanted to bring it back up and suggest that we actually put that in motion. I've got a list, we can publicize it, I've got a letter requesting bids for proposal for the new town attorney.
I got a request to advertise for a town attorney, and that was not discussed in the board, and it's just throwing something against the wall, seeing if it will stick, and I'm not going to put that on the agenda unless we discuss it.
Okay,
If
so
you guys
that's why
wanna
I'm
talk
bringing it
about-
to discuss.
If you want to talk about it, let's talk
Under
about it.
discussion items. It was part of the entire review of other contracts as
I
well.
saw just the town attorney on there.
Well,
all
that's
I
because
saw.
we're ready to move forward on it.
Right, that's
It's the biggest
that's the
one.
biggest.
Town attorney?
Yeah,
Right.
that we're spending, so we
Exactly.
got to start somewhere. and we did it, I guess, a couple years ago. I think Bruce is the one who suggested that
We do everybody.
we review, and, well, let's start somewhere, and
I don't think that's the biggest one anymore, though.
It's not.
I think you're wrong, but
Okay.
we
Well-
we can look, but I think Gina ought to circulate her proposed letter and her proposed list, and let's start. You never
So
finish
I'll
unless you
circulate
start.
that tomorrow and put it on the agenda with your permission, Tom?
If everybody
For
wants
the
to talk about it, it's great to have it open to the
9:10.
public, definitely.
I'd also like to, along that same vein, is that on the 10th, each of the liaisons have whoever their professional service providers are, and identify that and what they're going to do about going out to bid. And I know some of them are going to be very emotional.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Joel. I can go. I'm sorry.
Joel, let's go.
Excuse me, Joel.
I'd also like to have our committees be on the agenda as well, if we could.
We have them.
We did for a while, but they're not,
Yeah, no, we haven't on this one.
I know. So I would just like to have that standard on all of our agendas if we could.
Right.
Are we going to go into executive?
I think Joel wants to speak.
I'll try to be brief.
Please.
Yeah, Joel, it's late.
You know, would you,
And I don't want these.
with due respect, could you put yourself on the agenda when you want to come, just so we can balance out what we're doing? Would you mind emailing the clerk or one of us, and we'll get you on the agenda?
Sure. It's just you guys meet the second and the fourth Mondays of each month. The second Monday of each month, I have to be. That's the county legislature full board meeting. So basically, every month it's, and I don't mind waiting till the end because I learned
I know you're
stuff.
very patient.
I'm just asking that you ask us to put you on the agenda, because here, we're trying, we've had meetings go so late, and we still have executive sessions. With all due respect, just to follow the same protocol that we ask for everybody else. I'll be your liaison.
I've been doing this for 9 years, but I'll ask every month to be put on the agenda.
And send me email instead of hard paper, if you wouldn't mind. Just,
Okay. Could you take one of those and pass it down?
I'll pass them down.
Okay. Just very briefly, the last November, the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors voted unanimously for this idea of a Dutchess County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. I have a feeling that nobody in the room is really happy with the idea of health benefits being cut for Rhinebeck Town Highway Department employees. Maybe some people are happy about that. I have a feeling nobody is. So my point is that for 3 or 4 years, I've been working on this issue for a Dutchess County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. And then last November, the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors unanimously said, we want this. I've not been able to get Dutchess County government to do this. It would have a huge impact on even what you've been talking about tonight, because it wouldn't have to be, like this.
I think it's worthwhile.
So
You too.
my point is this, that I'm only one out of 25 county legislators. I've communicated with the county executive on this. We do have a forum here tomorrow night at 5:30. I would love it if your communications with Mr. Molinaro or other county legislators could talk about this, because on Thursday, September 6th, the Dutchess County Legislature is actually going to be voting on this. I've tried to get resolutions passed on this before. Like I said, the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors last November unanimously supported it. In Tompkins County, this is saving $865,000 a year with 13 of 17 municipalities on board. There's not one penny being cut from those health insurance benefits for those town employees, city employees, village employees, county employees for Tompkins County. That's in a county with 1/3 the population of Dutchess County. We wouldn't have to deal with town highway department employees wondering who's going to be laid off or who's going to have their health insurance benefits cuts. I've been working on this issue for 3 or 4 years.
How
I'm
do
asking.
the unions accept it? How do the unions accept it?
The labor is on board. The unions are on the board in Tompkins County. So I just don't want this to be a great idea that's happening 3 hours north of us, northwest of us, and it's just sitting there. And the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors unanimously endorsed it last November, their monthly meeting at Copperfields in Millbrook, and it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm seriously, because I was here a month ago, and I saw the PowerPoint, and if you guys want to avoid more carnage. I feel like we're here in Dutchess County, sort of like sitting in a pot of water that's.
How are the other people in the county on this? Is anyone helping you with this agenda? Are you alone?
I have, a year or two ago, I got the Democratic caucus on board. Nobody in the other caucus has come on board. I'm hoping, because I've been able to convince some members of the majority caucus to get on board, I'm hoping that maybe September 6th, it'll get out of committee. It hasn't gotten out of committee before. This is the first time it's actually going to be on the agenda for the county legislature since last November, when the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors unanimously endorsed it. So there's been no media coverage on it. I'm sending out press releases and press releases. But if you folks, you're talking to Mr. Molinaro, you're talking to other county legislators, you could even, I'm probably going to start a petition at this point. If you could even pass a resolution at some point saying that, why can't we do this here? Because it could save literally about $2.5 million for taxpayers in the towns and cities and villages of Dutchess County without cutting one penny from benefits. And the way they have it in Tompkins County, it didn't happen overnight to get all these municipalities working together. It took 3 or 4 years of meetings and meetings and meetings. But the genius is, it doesn't even have to have the same, you don't have to have the same health insurance for each municipality. You can still have different, but it's just the bulk purchase with over 2,000 employees involved, the municipalities anyway. So yes, I'll be talking about that. We're doing a forum here tomorrow night at 5:30, right here at Town Hall. There's a woman named Liz Cook in Rhinebeck who's going to have a PowerPoint on the Hudson Valley Happiness Initiative in Seattle, Washington, in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and in Nevada City. This is happening all over the country, all over the world. We're talking about a new economic paradigm of happiness. She's prepared a PowerPoint. The Scandinavian countries, a lot of these European countries, people are happy. And the wages are not under attack. The health insurance is not under attack. There's health care and there's child education and all this. And they're the 10 happiest countries on the planet. And a lot of people are trying to bring it here to this country. I actually had the national leader, Laura Musakansky from Seattle, speak to a gathering I organized in Poughkeepsie a month ago. It's tomorrow night here, PowerPoint, 5:30 p.m. Also, for years, I've been trying to get a local currency off the ground in Rhinebeck with Bob Magalino. Rhinebucks, we had Paul Glover from Ithaca Hours here in this room several years ago. Susan Witt from the E.F. Schumacher Society, Small is Beautiful. New Economics Institute from Berkshire's was here in this room. Tomorrow night we have, what's her name? Julie Jacquelat from WoodstockTimeBank.org is going to be here in this room. There's a lot of the best, finest, sort of innovative, progressive minds are saying that a local time bank, a sort of a local currency, can help turn a community around. I urge you to go to timebanks.org, woodstocktimebank.org. That's about the only thing I was going to say. The other thing is, I've seen a map. I've served this community, grateful and honored for the last 9 years. I'm in my middle of my 5th term. I've seen a map for the county legislature where, I went to high school in here in Rhinebeck. I live in the town of Clinton. I've seen a map where my 3 roads in the town of Clinton are put together with the eastern half of Hyde Park, basically. And so there's gerrymandering going on. I've seen that. That's a proposed map out there. Susan Lerner, who is the executive director for Common Cause New York, I brought her to the Rhinebeck Village Hall last year for a forum. She's going to be here in this room on Tuesday, September 18th at 5:30 p.m. I urge anybody who cares about fair, independent, nonpartisan redistricting to be here with me. I've been calling for a long time now for an independent citizens redistricting panel. Common Cause made a state-level version of that happen. Susan Lerner, the executive director of New York State Common Cause, is going to be here in this room working with me and Dara Thompson, who's the president of the Mid-Hudson League of Women Voters, to make a Dutchess County citizens redistricting panel, because there's some real, frankly, political games going on. And so I just urge people to come out to that. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Put on the agenda.
Thanks, Joel.
That'd be great.
All right, so a motion and second to go into executive session for,
Right, it's 2 motions, one to discuss pending litigation and the other to discuss layoffs, terminations, and anything else involving specific individuals.
Some grievances too.
grievances. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So moved. And we're not going to come out and make any decisions. We are, a motion to be back into session from executive session. I guess we are back Need a motion and second? Motion. Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
So we are back into public session, from executive session. So we have a motion from a council member.
Based on information that we learned in executive session, I want to make a motion that we vote to preserve the 2 jobs in question through the end of the year.
So by roll call, council.
Is there a motion?
Motion is.
Second.
Second, all right. Motion by who?
A motion.
Okay. Seconded by,
It was my
Gina's
motion. You
motion.
should have seconded,
Okay,
Elizabeth.
gotcha.
Sorry.
by roll call, Councilperson Fox,
Aye.
Councilperson Spenzia, Councilperson Geld,
Aye.
Councilperson Washburn,
I'll say nay because I just don't see that it's fiscally responsible at this time.
and Supervisor votes nay. It is so moved. Any further from the town board?
I move
Aye.
to adjourn?
Motion
Oh, you
second.
want to?
To adjourn.
Good.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Thank you all.
Opposed, so
Aye.
moved.